In today's video, we're hacking into a Windows Active Directory box that's really just perfect for beginners that have never done Active Directory before, or even those that are looking to sharpen their AD enumeration and exploitation skills. We start off by enumerating SMB shares, where we find a new hire welcome note containing, you guessed it, a default password. Using RID cycling, we extract a list of domain users and we spray that password, successfully logging in with an account still using it. With a valid domain access, we explore a network share and discover a file containing another user's plaintext password. And using these new credentials, we gain access to a hidden backup script, which eventually reveals yet another set of credentials. And then from there, we use the new creds to get a shell on the system in which we discover the user has the SeBackupPrivilege. And by abusing this privilege, we exfiltrate the registry hives, dump all the system hashes, and achieve a full system compromise. If you're new here, I'm Alupului, a cyber enthusiast who loves CDF challenges, researching vulnerabilities, and just all things hacking. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and do a typical ping first, just to verify that we actually can access the machine with our VPN. In this case, we can, so I can go ahead, Control C to stop that, because that's going to run indefinitely if we leave it. From there, we can go ahead and start doing our initial recon. And with recon, what I like doing is I like trying to scan all the 65,000 or so ports first with this P flag for that IP address with a min rate of 10,000, because we're not worried about being detected or being noisy for a hackthebox machine. In this case, it finishes around 13 seconds and it's going to display us all the different open ports and services for this particular challenge. 53, 88, 135, so forth and so on. Seeing domain server, Kerberos, MSRPC, LDAP, Microsoft, so forth and so on. So now that we know what ports are actually open for us, we can from there be more specific in our scan, and we could do all the ports that are available. We'll just throw them all up on there, and then we will use Nmap's default scripts here. That's CV, and sometimes I like doing it this way as well, where I split the two commands apart for the IP address, and I will use the ON flag to save it into an Nmap scan file, so that if I need to reference it, I can going forward without actually rerunning this Nmap scan. I'm gonna let that run, and for the sake of this video, I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. Awesome, so that finished around 90 seconds. And that's kind of why I like saving the output to a file, or at least copying it into my notes so that I don't have to rerun it again. But let's go ahead and scroll up and let's take a look at this command. So we are getting back a bunch of different things: simple DNS, a lot of Microsoft, a lot of Windows, Active Directory, that's the thing that stands out to me, LDAP, so forth and so on. Essentially what I'm going to do though is I'm going to throw on the screen what all this information is, what it indicates, so that we both know going forward, and we'll go from there. All right, from here, now what I typically like doing is I'm going to go ahead and just throw these into my Etsy host. So let's go ahead, open a new window, cd in the hackthebox, sudo nano Etsy host, put in your Kali password, and throw that IP address as well as any other domains that you see in your Nmap scan. In this case, I don't think we need this one, but I'm going to throw it in there anyways, so it resolves correctly for that IP address. I'm going to save it and exit out and then clear it. Now from here, going back to our Nmap scan, let's work from the very top. We notice, okay, a very simple DNS plus, LDAP, Kerberos, there is an HTTP, and SMB. All right, from here, my typical go-to is starting to enumerate shares. That's usually what I do for Active Directory boxes. Is I want to see, do we have any access with like an anonymous account or a guest account and no password? So from here, I'll use the netexec tool for the SMB shared. And we're essentially using the username guest with no password. And we're using the shares flag to show us if we can enumerate any of these shares. In this case, the first thing we're getting, we're getting information on that it is a Windows Server 2022 with a certain build on a certain architecture. And here is the domain, and we're getting a true signing. And here we're getting actually authenticated as a guest. And now we're getting a bunch of different shares. So these are typical shares, but the thing that is standing out to me that I don't typically see on an Active Directory box is the HR share. And that is actually for the permissions here showing us a read. So we're actually able to get a read for this. And that means we have access to this shared as a guest account with no password. So that's usually going to be my attack vector. I'm going to go ahead and do an SMB client, and we are essentially targeting here the shared, the HR shared, and we're using this N flag with the capital N for essentially the same thing that is here. We're using a guest with no password. That is essentially what the N flag is. Now, the other thing we could do with SMB client is if we wanted to see the shares as well, we could use this capital L flag, and that will show us the same shares. In this case, it's showing us the SMB1 version, and here is the share information. But the reason why I like using netexec is because of the permissions ability to see what is available for us as a guest. In this case, it's not showing up with SMB client. Now, the other tool I believe is SMB map, but for some odd reason, the newest version is not working correctly. It's not actually even showing us any shares. So these are all great tools to kind of enumerate shares going forward. But now that we know what shares are available for us, we're essentially going to use SMB client, and we're going to connect into this share. I'm actually going to open up a new window so I can keep this nice and clean and clear it. And we're doing it this way. Okay, SMB client. We're going to remove that flag, and we're going to see if we can connect to the HR shared now. And we are getting access, so that is awesome. We can ls or we can dir, and that's going to give us information on what is available for us. In this case, we're only getting one document, and it is a notice from HR. But that is promising, because notices from HR could be pretty information disclosure type. Like in other words, there may be some type of credentials in there. So let us get the notice from hr.text, and actually let's do it this way. And there we go. We were able to download that. I'm going to simply close out of that, and here is our directory. And if I ls, there is that file that we downloaded, the notice from HR. So we can cat the notice from HR. Here is your default password. So I'm going to simply copy that password. And if I go up here in my clipboard, I have my clipboard running. There is that password, but typically I'd like saving all this information into my notes. What we need to figure out now is, where does this password go to? Because I'm reading through here and I'm noticing there isn't any usernames for this, right? It's just kind of like contact support, and I'm assuming it's probably not support username. So we need to start enumerating the user accounts to see if we can use this password for a certain user. So let's go ahead and start doing that now. And we'll open up a new window, cd into hackthebox, and go pivot back into netexec. And in this case, instead of using here the shares flag, we're going to do RID brute to see if we can enumerate any users. All right, here we go. So we got back a lot of information now. So we were able to authenticate as guest, and we're getting back SID type users and SID type groups. So that is awesome. And I'm noticing here at the very bottom, Emily, David, Michael, Sarah, John, so forth and so on, right? So guest, right? So we can go ahead, and now that we've enumerated the users, let's see if we can get this user and the passwords together. So what we're doing is we're just going to simply copy all these users and throw them into a text file that we can use with netexec. So let's go ahead and nano users and throw those users into this file. All right, there we go. So those are all the users: administrator, John, Sarah, okay, so forth and so on. So I'm going to simply exit out of that. And now we can start using the exact same thing or exact same command we used before, but we're no longer trying to RID brute. We're essentially going to do the same command, but we are going to replace this guest for the users.text, right? And here we're going to paste in that password that we were able to gather from this file. So I'm going to copy that, throw that in there. So let's go ahead and see if we can authenticate with any of these. And netexec does come back here. So administrator, guest, so forth and so on. And here we go. We're getting a plus sign for Michael. So Michael is the one that this password was for, and he obviously forgot to change that password. So let's take advantage of the fact that he may be still trying to figure out how to change the password, and we can go ahead and start logging into Michael or start seeing if there's any available shares that Michael has access to. So let's start doing that now. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new window to keep it nice and clean. Now we can go ahead and do the same command. And instead of using the users here, I'm going to go ahead and replace the users with this Michael username. Let's do it this way. Okay. And now we can go ahead and do a shares and see, does Michael have any shares available to us that we weren't able to get? In this case, we are getting back a bunch of different shares. So we are getting back HR, but we have access to that as guest, net login, and system volume. So maybe with system volume, we may be able to find some group policies and maybe passwords in there. But it is a 2022, so I'm not too sure about that. The other thing we can do here is instead of shares, let's try doing that same RID brute, see if there's any new users on here. Doesn't look like anything. Let me clear the screen and let's, instead of RID brute, let's do users and see. All right, so it doesn't look like any new users are available to us, but when we run this users command versus the RID command, we are getting back here a description. And the thing that pops up to me is here, just in case I forget my password, and this is pretty easy to miss, is here we go, so forth and so on, for a David. So we got another password now for David. That is awesome. So it looks like we are now pivoting again, but let me check. So we did check shares and we are checking users now. Let's go ahead and open up a new window, CD here, and let's start throwing that in there. So I'm going to simply put in the new password that we got for David, right? And let's see, maybe he has some new shares that we are not able to access as Michael. So we're going to copy his credentials now, and we're going to use netexec, and let's see. Okay, so it is being authenticated correctly. Let's put in those shares now, and let's see what shares are available to us. And we can compare now. Where was the other screen? Okay, HR. I think I cleared the screen, but I think the thing that's jumping out to me for Michael, I'm sorry, for David, is this dev share is being available for us. So let's go ahead, SMB client. Right. And we are going to log in to the dev share this time. And we're not using the N flag, right? Because the N flag is for the guest account and password. We need to use the capital U flag for David as well as his password. So let's go ahead and try that. And it looks like that didn't work out. So let's rerun that command. I'm assuming then it's probably not going to be with a password. Let's do it this way. And now it's going to ask for us for the password. And I'm going to paste in the password that I just copied. And there we go. We have now access with David's credentials. And let's take a look. And it looks like there is only one file on here, a backup script. So let us get this backup script. Actually, I probably don't need that, right? I can do backup script.ps1. And then there we go. We now downloaded that. And then from here, I'm going to exit, clear it, ls, and let's take a look. So we can file backup script, and let's take a look at what it is. Okay, ASCII text. Can we cat it? We can. And we are getting, it looks like another username and password. So we're doing another pivot there. So there is this. Let's see if we can actually authenticate now as Emily and see what shares are available for Emily. So I'm going to keep that window as is so I can reference it. CD into hackthebox, and now we can go ahead and do another netexec for the SMB, and we're doing the same thing, the same shares to see maybe Emily has different shares. Let's go ahead and do it this way. Okay, let's see what type of access does Emily have once we pivot in. All right, so it did authenticate correctly here, and we are getting, okay, so this is promising because we are getting read permissions for admin and C. So we have read and write, and it is the default for these. So that is awesome. So it looks like with Emily is the right pivot that we need to go into. All right, from here, let's go ahead and do a evil winrm. And there we go. So now we have access to the user Emily. We're in the documents file. There is nothing in there. So let's go ahead and CD into the desktop. And let's see. Can we not CD into the desktop? Okay, something went wrong there. Or maybe I misspelled it. I did desktop. So there is the user flag. So we can go ahead and cat the user flag. In this case, I'm not using cat, I'm using type. There is that flag, but we aren't an administrator, I'm assuming. Let's go ahead and CD into users. Can we CD into administrator? We can. Can we see it in desktop? We can. Can we get the reflag? And it looks like we are being denied. So is denied is denied. We're not able to actually gather the root flag, I think we need to figure out how do we get the credentials for administrators so that we can get the root flag. So if that is the case, let me go ahead and clear the screen and do a who am I, and we'll do a priv to see what privileges do we have. In this case, we do have backup privileges. We have shut down the system, bypass traverse checkling. Okay. The most promising that I'm seeing is probably the backup. So I'm not sure about this privilege escalation route. So what I'm going to simply do is I'm going to start by Googling this and then working my way down the tree. But let's go ahead and open up Firefox and see, is there an exploit for this? So I'm simply just going to paste in the SeBackupPrivilege exploit and let's take a look. So the first thing that's coming up is a markdown file for Windows Privilege Escalation Cookbook. Okay. The other thing I'm noticing here is the heart hacking articles, Windows Privilege Escalation for this specific file, and that's from 2021. So let's click into that and let's take a look. Okay, so we're getting here the table of contents. I'm assuming maybe this is Windows 10 box, but what I'm looking for is the proof of concept. So probably exploit and privilege is the best route. Setting it up, we're not worried about that. Testing, let's see, this does look pretty similar here, right? We're seeing the SeBackup, we're seeing the shutdown. Okay, here we go. So exploiting privilege on Windows 10. So this is what we want. Now we can start the exploitation of this privilege, so forth and so on. To begin, we traverse to the C directory and then move to create a temp directory. We could also traverse to a directory with read and write privilege if the attacker is trying to be sneaky. So we need to keep that in mind. If this doesn't work, we'll do that. Then we can change the directory to the temp. Okay. So we need to cd into C. So I'm going to simply just copy that. And I am in the desktop. So let's go into C. And it looks like he's making a directory, make directory temp. Okay, so temp was created, so we do have access, read and write access to that. And then it looks like he's saving the SAM file to the SAM file in the temp folder. So let's simply paste that in and let's see if that works. Operation completed successfully, awesome. And let's do that for the system as well. So there we go, operation completed. If we ls, oh, we do need to go into temp. Okay, so we have those two files. So I'm going to clear the screen, ls again. Now we have those two files. Let's take a look and see what do we need to do next. So yes, we did that. cd into temp. Okay, so we're downloading these files. Okay, so download SAM, completed, download system. All right. And it looks like this one's going to take a little longer. It is a lot larger in length than the SAM system. But while that's downloaded, we can also even, in fact, go back to this hacking articles and see what's next. So now we can extract the Hive secrets from the SAM and the system file using PyPyCats. If not present on the Kali Linux, you can download it from the GitHub. It is a variant of Mimikatz cooked in Python. So we can run its registry function and then use the SAM parameter to provide the path to the SAM and system files. As soon as the command run, we could see it in the demonstration. Okay, so we're going to copy this. And it looks like, okay, so wherever it is, it should give us some files, some NTLM hashes for administrators. So that is pretty promising. Almost finished. All right, so SAM Hive secrets, administrator. Okay, so what we want is this NTLM hash. And I'm assuming once we have this hash, if this is being done correctly, then it will work and we'll be able to authenticate as administrator. So that finished downloading. Let's exit. Let's ls. Okay, those are in there. I'm going to paste in that command. I do have PyCats on here, and it looks like it's referencing those two files correctly. And there we go. We got back administrator, guest. I think the administrator one is the most important. So we want this hash right here. And now that we have this hash, I'm going to go ahead, open up a new window, cd in there, and then we can evil win rm, right? Let's see, with this hash. I'm going to paste in this hash, and I'm going to use the capital H for the hash. And here, instead of Emily, I'm going to do administrator, if I can write it correctly. And let's see if that works. And boom, there we go. We got it. So we need to cd into the desktop, and here is our dopamine fix. There it is. Boom. We got the root flag. I'm going to copy that. I'll throw that in. And there it is. So that is it for this box. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you have any questions, if you have any alternative ways you've done this machine, feel free to throw it into the comment section below. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, this was actually one of my favorite boxes for Active Directory, just because it does help with going through the enumeration for the SMB. So if you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that like button, smash that subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.